It's time to talk the Buffalo Bills as a whole because ESPN revealed their starting lineup for the Buffalo Bills, and they even ranked all 32 NFL teams' starting lineups based off of those projections. What's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome into the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, hanging out with you today on the episode. And I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to go back to the well. Let's go back to our roots. I want you to name a random Bills wide receiver for me. Let's go back to, I'm going to call it 2000, and I'll pick a year. 2009, I'll say Lee Evans, 2009. But let me know in the comment section down below. Producer Alper keeps saying Stevie Johnson. The Kentucky legend is right. All right, let's get into the actual article itself. So ESPN ranked each starting roster based off of their projections, which we'll get to later on in the episode. But the Bills come in at number 4, which is a pretty good position. I don't necessarily know if I agree with Baltimore being number 1, but that's neither here nor there. As you can see, 5 through 8 looks like that. We're going to briefly go through all of them. Cincinnati Bengals, San Francisco 49ers, the Minnesota Vikings at 11, Texans at 13 feels a lot lower than they should. And then the Packers and the Bears coming in at 14 and 15, 17 through 24. Kind of more of the same. I have the Dolphins a little bit higher than 24, but again, neither here nor there. And then finally, the bottom of the barrel. Here's what it looks like. The Colts, who should suck. The Titans, who should also suck. The Browns and the Saints coming in with the worst-rated roster in the NFL. I keep saying this, just a little side tangent. The Saints are going to be the worst team in the NFL. I would be surprised, honestly, if they won 4 games. Okay, back to the Bills, though. Top 5 does feel about right to me. I don't know that I would have the Bills at 4 or at 5, but inside the top 5 feels correct, considering all of the moves the Bills made in free agency and the draft addressing their biggest issues on defense. Now, the article goes on to list the biggest strength for the Bills, the biggest X factors for the Bills, which is, not quite the biggest strength, but the players that they're looking forward to making the most on the 2025 season. And then, of course, the biggest weakness. And here's what it looks like for Buffalo. The biggest strength, obviously, Josh Allen. The biggest X factors, Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid, and the biggest weakness being the safety. So we're going to kind of break it down piece by piece and then give you the full roster projection, starting roster projection for Buffalo heading into 2025. Let's start with, of course, the biggest strength, which is Josh Allen. Kind of a no-brainer, right? Future Hall of Famer, unbelievable playmaker. I don't need to spew to you guys how good Josh Allen is. You watch him every Sunday play. I thought last year wasn't necessarily the year that he maybe should have won MVP. I thought Lamar had a better statistical season, but you could easily have made an argument for Josh Allen, considering they went head-to-head with each other in the playoffs, and Josh Allen won. And Lamar hasn't really done much in the playoffs, and obviously the Bills only can't get by the Chiefs. That's it. It's the only team. So outside of, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, there is nobody better than Josh Allen. It's not even close. Those are the top 3. You could flip them in any order that you want, in my opinion. I'm not going to, disagree with you. But those are the big 3 in the NFL right now with a, special nod to Joe Burrow. All right, moving on from the biggest strength from the Bills, which, of course, is Josh Allen. Moving on to the X factors. Here's what ESPN said about who they believe are the biggest X factors, being Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid. The Bills need at least one of the two to take a big step forward. If they do, General Manager Brandon Beane will look plenty justified not investing more in another pass catcher. More importantly, that would give Allen another real playmaker to throw to besides Khalil Shakir. And again, if Khalil Shakir is your number 1, you better have a bevy of wide receivers at wide receiver 2, 3, and 4, which the Bills clearly do. Joshua Palmer, Coleman, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, they are going by wide receiver or wide receiver by committee. But Keon Coleman, in my opinion, might be an X factor, but he's not the X factor because my money is on Dalton Kincaid, who we'll touch on here in just a second. But I think it's important to go through at least both of their 2024 seasons with, before deciding who the actual X factor would be. So Keon Coleman in 2024 didn't have the greatest rookie season. Again, not something I need to rehash. You don't need to beat a dead horse. But I think we can all agree these numbers need to greatly improve, especially in the receptions department. I'm not even really that upset with his total yards because his yards per reception is among the top of the NFL. So he's a big-time chunk yardage play making wide receiver. But he's got to find the end zone more, and he's got to get better at his route running. His speed is also a major question. Dalton Kincaid, in my opinion, out of the two pass catchers, has the ability to be a better utilized weapon for Josh Allen. He just needs to continue to stay healthy, and he just needs to take that next step, that little extra bit in 2025. Because he had 75 targets. That's great. I need to see him get 75 receptions in one season. Excuse me. Pardon me. We just got done with lunch. That's my bad. Anyway, back to what I was originally saying. If Dalton Kincaid can get somewhere between 60 receptions and 75 receptions, it'll be a hell of a year because that will automatically take his yards to about 600 or 700. And I think he can find the end zone 4 to 5 times in 2025, and that would put him amongst the top 15 tight ends, top 12 maybe, in the NFL. Right now, the Bills have good playmakers as their pass catchers, not great. And I think that Dalton Kincaid, out of these two, has the best potential to be great. It's just about getting there, taking that next step, and staying healthy. So if you had to pick an X factor going into the 2025 season, who would it be? Would it be Keon Coleman? And if it is Keon Coleman, or if so, type KC. And if it's Dalton Kincaid, type DK. We do have to talk about the bad news, of course, because you can't talk about the yin without talking about the yang. And the bad news right now is the Bills' safety room. ESPN's article went on to talk about the biggest weakness and clearly and correctly identifying the safeties as the worst part of the Bills' defense and team as a whole. Here's what it said. The Bills' roster is in pretty good shape. Completely agree. So we have to pick on a safety group with some uncertainty. Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin, and Cam Lewis return after each played 400-plus snaps last season, though the latter three posted a weak PFF grade. Veteran Derek Forrest was the only depth addition to the group. And I've said again, same thing going forward. This safety room is clearly the biggest problem on the team, but there are areas and there are players that can take the next step into solidifying the room. It's never going to be elite, at least not without some splash addition or attacking it in the draft. But I do think that Cole Bishop can at least stabilize the Bills' safety room in 2025. Make it at least respectable. So if he could take the leap heading into year 2, the Bills' secondary will be just fine. He's got to get better in pass coverage. We've talked ad nauseum on the channel about how his aggression, his aggressive style, and high motor is something the Bills clearly valued. That's great. But as you get to be an older player, you have to rely more on your coverage skills because that athleticism is going to wane as the years go on. It's just science. Father Time has always been undefeated. So while he is a very young player heading into year 2 and he can rely on his athleticism for the next 7 to 8 years, at some point you've got to be able to develop your skills as a pass cover or as a pass defender and be able to play more like a center field style position. And Cole Bishop right now can't do that. But that doesn't mean he can't. Because if there's one coach that I will rely on to at least make strides in developing a secondary player, it's Sean McDermott. So will Cole Bishop have a breakout year 2? I think that's the biggest question that everybody wants to know. I think yes, but if I could put a soft yes, I don't think it'll be a Pro Bowl style season. I think what you're going to see is that he is a valued starter in year 2 rather than someone that you can spend a whole lot of money on further down the line. But, again, can make it respectable, not necessarily elite. Before we end the show today, here's the full Buffalo Bills projection. And there's not a lot that I have any issues with here, really. There is one major area that I kind of am like, what? And that's Max Hairston is not on this. They have Tre'Davious White starting at the second cornerback position. Throw that up for me one more time, Producer Alper, just so everybody can take a really good hard look at it. Benford, obviously. Taron Johnson at the nickel corner, obviously. But Tre'Davious White over Max Hairston, who you took with the first in the first round, pick number 30? I mean, really? Listen, I understand that Sean McDermott has he's got higher expectations for his rookie players. I get that. But, I mean, Hairston has to be your starting outside CB2. In my opinion, he's too athletic to not at least get a shot week 1. And from everything that I'm reading right now, it sounds like he's not going to start week 1. That might come later on, week 2, 3, or 4. In fact, Bills Sports Illustrated basically said that the simple fact is it's hard for rookies to live up to the standard expected by head coach Sean McDermott. Because over the last 8-year tenure, it's been unusual for a first-year player to start in week 1, with 2022 sixth-round pick Christian Benford being the only exception. And I have to personally think that they'd start Maxwell Hairston week 1, because if you didn't, like if you were thinking to yourself, first-round pick doesn't have to start right away, the first position you'd think of is quarterback, right? Because there's so much riding on you. You're taking over the franchise, and it's the hardest position to play. But when you take a look at what Hairston offers as a prospect at the cornerback position, his athleticism and his speed is too valuable, and he's got great coverage skills. The one area that I feel like everybody's missing from him or wants to see better at is his physicality because of his size. But if you give me elite coverage skills and the speed to not get beat over the top, why wouldn't you start him week 1? So that's the only issue that I have with ESPN's projection and prognostication of the Bills' starting lineup. I think Maxwell Hairston would start over Tre'Davious White, but that's just my opinion. Obviously, you can let me know in the comment section down below. That is going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to like the video if you haven't. Subscribe. We are on our way now to 6,000 subscribers here on the channel. And as always, be cool.